The SM-6 employs a multi-mode guidance system combining midcourse and terminal phase capabilities. Initially, it follows an inertial navigation system path, with midcourse updates provided by the Aegis weapon system via shipborne radars and Link 16 data link communications. Translation: the missile deliberately doesn't chase the target immediately after launch. It flies somewhere else entirely, conserving energy, waiting for the perfect moment. And by the time the target realizes it's being tracked, the missile arrives with so much speed and maneuverability that evasion becomes mathematically impossible. This is why Raytheon's missiles, AMRAAM, SM-6, and the classified AIM-260 dominate modern air combat. They miss first, so they don't miss last. And when you understand the engineering behind midcourse updates, energy management, and endgame kinematics, you realize that everything you thought you knew about missile combat is backwards. Let me show you why the missile that appears to be flying the wrong direction is actually executing the perfect intercept. The foundation is counterintuitive. Chasing targets directly wastes energy. Legacy Cold War missiles use simple guidance, lock target, fly straight toward it, bleed energy constantly trying to match every maneuver, and arrive slow, predictable, and vulnerable. This worked when targets didn't maneuver aggressively, electronic warfare was primitive, and engagement ranges were short. But in modern contested airspace, that approach gets you killed. The AMRAAM missile uses a combination of inertial guidance, midcourse updates, and an onboard active radar to find the intended target and complete the intercept. That sequence is critical. Inertial guidance first, meaning the missile flies a predetermined trajectory based on where it thinks the target will be. Midcourse updates second. External sensors provide course corrections without the missile revealing itself. Active radar last. Only in the final seconds does the missile turn on its own seeker and execute terminal maneuvers. Think about what that means tactically. A fighter launches an AMRAAM at a target 80 miles away. The missile doesn't immediately point at the enemy aircraft and burn fuel trying to close distance. Instead, it flies an energy-optimal trajectory, potentially lofted high into thinner air where drag is minimal, or offset to one side to approach from an unexpected angle. The target's radar warning receiver might not even activate because the missile isn't illuminating yet. And here's the brutal part. The missile is deliberately flying what looks like a suboptimal intercept path. It's not taking the shortest route. It's taking the route that preserves maximum energy for the moment that actually matters, the endgame. Because turning costs energy, and energy equals kill probability. A missile that arrives fast can pull higher Gs, defeat last-second evasive maneuvers, ignore decoys longer, and punch through electronic countermeasure windows. A missile that burned all its energy chasing the target through midcourse arrives slow, predictable, and easy to evade. So early in flight, the missile isn't trying to hit, it's trying to arrive correctly. SM-6 receives midcourse flight control from the Aegis combat system via ship's radar. Terminal flight control is autonomous via the missile's active seeker, or supported by the Aegis combat system via the ship's illuminator. That's network-centric warfare distilled into one sentence. The missile doesn't need to see the target itself. AWACS provides updates. Satellites track movements. Other fighters transmit coordinates. The launching platform sends course corrections. And the missile flies a ghost path, an energy-efficient trajectory that looks wrong until suddenly it's perfect. This is why modern missiles are network weapons, not standalone ones. Turning on a seeker early makes the missile predictable, exposes it to jamming, and forces energy-wasting course corrections every time the target maneuvers. So the missile stays passive, receiving guidance through encrypted data links, making minimal adjustments, preserving fuel and speed for the phase where it matters. Energy management is everything. A critical challenge in guidance is energy management, which becomes evident in the midcourse phase of the missile flight. In this phase, missiles must balance the need to maintain sufficient energy for terminal phase maneuvers, while also ensuring that they can effectively intercept their targets. Reacting to every target maneuver leads to excessive energy expenditure. Ignoring target maneuvers results in missed intercepts. The solution? Let the network handle midcourse tracking while the missile conserves energy. Think of it like a sprinter. You don't sprint the entire race. You conserve for the final 100 meters where positioning and speed determine victory. A missile that burns all its energy early arrives slow and can't turn aggressively. A missile that arrives fast forces the target into defensive maneuvers that bleed their energy, while the missile still has reserves to compensate. In the outer airfight, conservation of energy into the terminal phase matters as much as raw range. This directly counters the myth that longer range automatically equals better missile. A weapon with massive range but poor endgame energy can be defeated by maneuvers, spoofed by decoys, or out-timed by defensive tactics. Raytheon's philosophy is simpler. The last 3 seconds matter more than the first 30. And those last 3 seconds are where Raytheon missiles become lethal. Interceptors employ a 2-phase guidance strategy: ZEM guidance during the midcourse phase and PN guidance during the endgame phase. ZEM, zero effort miss, guides the missile to a point where it will intercept with minimal correction. PN, proportional navigation, executes violent terminal maneuvers when energy and geometry favor the interceptor. At terminal phase, the seeker activates. Thrust vectoring or high-authority control fins engage. The missile executes maneuvers that would tear apart less sophisticated designs. And because it conserved energy through midcourse, it still has speed. Lots of speed. The propulsion system consists of a dual-pulse solid rocket motor, delivering both an initial high-thrust boost and sustained propulsion during flight. This design enables the missile to achieve speeds exceeding Mach 3. The target, meanwhile, is in trouble. They've been maneuvering defensively, burning energy, deploying countermeasures, operating inside shrinking geometry. The aircraft is slow from defensive turns. The pilot is pulling maximum Gs trying to break the intercept. And the missile, which appeared to be flying somewhere else entirely for most of its flight, suddenly arrives on a perfect intercept vector with enough energy to pull harder, turn faster, and maintain better angles than the aircraft can possibly match. By the time the target realizes the missile is on track, it's already too late to outmaneuver. The dual eye upgrade adds a more powerful processor that runs more sophisticated targeting software to hit a warhead descending from the upper atmosphere at extreme speed. If the SM-6 can intercept ballistic missile warheads in terminal phase, targets plunging through atmosphere at hypersonic speeds, it can certainly hit aircraft executing defensive maneuvers. This is why AMRAAM still dominates despite being in service since the 1990s. This is why SM-6 works across multiple domains: anti-air, anti-surface, ballistic missile defense. This is why the AIM-260 prioritizes kinematics over raw range numbers. The philosophy is consistent: arrive when the target is out of options. And here's the strategic implication that should terrify adversaries. Enemies plan around maximum range, first shot advantage, and outranging United States weapons. Chinese PL-15 missiles reportedly reach 200 kilometers. Russian R-77 variants advertise extended range. And planners assume that if their missiles can shoot first from beyond AMRAAM range, they win the engagement. But Raytheon designs missiles for second-phase dominance. The AIM-260, built specifically to counter long-range threats, doesn't just match adversary range. The lack of mid-body fins in the rendering implies a design that trades some classic mid-course maneuvering for efficiency and better energy management, especially at high altitude and speed. Lower drag, better energy conservation, optimized for arriving fast even at extreme range. So while adversaries think they're outside the envelope, they're actually inside the endgame envelope. Their long-range missiles might launch first, but if they arrive with depleted energy, they become vulnerable to evasion. Meanwhile, Raytheon missiles that launch second arrive with enough kinetic energy to execute terminal maneuvers that make interception nearly guaranteed. SM-6 is capable of providing over-the-horizon air defense and takes full advantage of the kinematics available to the standard missile family, allowing the use of both active and semi-active modes and advanced fusing techniques. Over-the-horizon means the launching ship can't even see the target. The missile relies entirely on network updates until terminal phase. And it still achieves intercepts because energy management and endgame kinematics, not mid-course precision, determine success. The final element is networked fire control. The SM-6 is vital to the United States Navy's Naval Integrated Fire Control, counter-air, and provides surface vessels with increased battlespace protection against over-the-horizon anti-warfare threats. One ship detects the threat. Another ship fires the missile. A third ship provides mid-course updates. And the missile itself only activates terminal guidance in the final seconds. The target never knows which platform is actually shooting. This creates impossible defensive calculations for adversaries. They see one radar contact. They maneuver to evade, but they're evading based on incomplete information because the missile isn't revealing its approach vector until terminal phase. And by then, geometry and energy favor the interceptor so heavily that evasion becomes impossible regardless of how aggressively the pilot maneuvers. Raytheon missiles aren't designed to hit the target as fast as possible. They're designed to arrive when the target is out of options. They miss first, flying energy-optimal trajectories that look wrong. They preserve speed and maneuverability through midcourse, letting the network handle tracking while conserving fuel, and they execute terminal intercepts with so much remaining energy that defensive maneuvers can't save the target. In modern air combat, the missile that wins isn't the one that gets there first. It's the one that arrives fast. And that's not wordplay. That's physics, engineering, and doctrine converging into a weapons philosophy that makes Raytheon missiles nearly impossible to defeat. Because by the time you realize they're on track, you're already out of energy, out of geometry, and out of time.